So one of the parts of any job, no matter how good you are as a salesperson or whatever, builder, attorney, executor, is the paperwork. It's the process, the administration, the gritty details of getting the job done. And I know it trips up so many attorneys, it trips up so many executors of estates. And it's a job, it's a business. And like any business, we have powerful tools that can help us do the job. For those who are either administering estates or professionally administering estates for clients like attorneys or fiduciaries, there's a product I've been aware for a while and actually have used EstateExec. And we're excited to have one of the key members of the team. I don't remember your exact title, Dan Stickel. Dan, thanks for joining us today. What is your official title at EstateExec?
My official title is CEO and founder. So
there you go.
You've come to the man for this.
There you go. So I got the right guy, but more importantly, very impressive titles. Whether it's true or not, we're not going to bother verifying that. And so how long have you been involved with EstateExec, and what was it that launched the idea for you?
EstateExec has been around for almost 10 years now. And, my background is that I have a couple of degrees from Harvard University in computer science, and I've been CEO of multiple Silicon Valley software companies. And as happens to everybody, eventually at some point, my parents passed away. And my father passed away first, and I was named the executor of his will. And with my background, I figured serving as an executor would be a piece of cake, but it wasn't. No. It was surprisingly difficult and complicated. And I realized that there was a lot of things that technology could be brought to bear to make this easier for everyone. And so I founded the company, and the rest is history.
So you scratched your own itch.
That's right.
It's so this whole thing is so funny because I come across people like you who are successful in other areas of life, financially, family, business, and they assume managing estate is a piece of cake. It's a lot of things. It's not easy. So what are the most common problems that you see either yourself or customers come up with that you attempt to solve through your software? What are two major pain points that you look to resolve?
Well, we started off really focusing on the accounting of all this, just to make it easy, not to solve any particularly rocket science problems, but just to be able to have a clear inventory and a list of the debts and keep track of the transactions and the executor expenses, and then generating inventory reports and accounting reports and doing all that. But what we found is that people also had a very strong need for guidance in terms of what they're supposed to do. What is an executor? What are the responsibilities? When do I do these various things? And so over time, EstateExec has evolved into really two main components. One, it provides customized step-by-step guidance for the executor, from ordering death certificates to applying for an EIN to canceling magazine subscriptions to generating probate applications to all the rest of that. So it gradually introduces the user step by step into what it means to be an executor and gets the job done. And then the second part, which is still maybe even a little more than half, is the accounting, where you can keep track of all this stuff easily, entering the data in one place, having it ripple through everywhere, and generating the paperwork and the reports that you need to get this job done.
Now, not to get too deep or technical, but just because it scratches my itch, does the paperwork go as far as creating the tax filings, or does it create the reports that you would bring to an accountant who would have to do those tax filings for the decedent?
Well, that's a really good question, because we really focus on what I would call the estate accounting. So we do generate accounting reports that you can submit to the court, but we don't do tax filings. So for us, those are two different things. One is, how do you settle and close an estate? And then a separate thing is, how do you file income taxes to the IRS and potentially estate taxes, which is pretty rare. And we don't do the tax filings themselves, although certainly you can use the outputs of our product to input into other tax filing programs. But we're not competing with TurboTax or anything like that.
When I first came to know your product was right after I had a family estate that I was an heir to. The administrator was a family member who the decedent trusted a little more than me, had a little closer emotional relationship, which is fine, but wasn't a business person. And she was just tripped up with the signatures and the forms and the this and that. And I ended up kind of playing the intermediate role, but I'd have the authority to do certain things. And so I think, the gap that you seem to fill would be to help the person who is seen and trusted for the job, but may not have the business experience, because it's a business. What you're talking about, getting the IRS to access somebody else's tax return, that's a business activity that accountants do, right? Preparing documents is a business activity that businesses create every day. If you're, you can be the most wonderful person in the world, and if you don't do that stuff, those are big tasks.
Yeah, and you talked about even getting the signatures. We have a help topic on how to sign checks as an executor. So we really cover all of that. But I'm not so sure that I would say that the consumer executor is really trying to do a business here, but it's a complicated task for sure.
Right.
And as our product became more and more powerful, it was never our intention to replace a lawyer or a CPA or anything like that, just to help the poor executor get through this task. And so there's an estate share capability that you can use. So you can share access with a lawyer or with a fiduciary or with your co-executor or with an heir or with whoever you want, so that you can work together and kind of cooperate on this. And so we have many people that end up, working together online with their lawyer, or the lawyer introduces it to the mix and has the executor sign in. And it's a great way for them to keep track of each other and keep track of the executor expenses, make sure they're not doing anything wrong,
Right.
and to delegate tasks and all the rest of that.
It also seems that it allows the executor to do the tasks that they want to do and then delegate the parts they can't, which is maybe legal advice, or a fiduciary
That's
might
right.
be more complicated. But rather than reinvent the wheel, by sharing it, all the information's there, the data's there, the forms are there. I know when people go out and later, after they start getting an attorney or fiduciary, they're asking me to email death certs and this document, that document. But in your software, it's already kind of loaded up in one spot. And I feel like, gee, it'd be nice if it was all there. To that point, you offer, I believe, a product to professionals to offer to their clients as a way to kind of get the process rolling or get started. So talk about that relationship. If I was an attorney, and I am actually a fiduciary on a couple estates currently, and I do like that business, how does your product work for me to start the process or to give to an executor and say, hey, if you share this, then you'll limit my hours and I only have to do the things that I have to do?
Yeah, so I would say let's talk about three main audiences here. One is the consumer executor whose parent has passed away. They have no idea what to do, and they just need help on every front. And EstateExec is there to help with all of that. Then you have the lawyer who does this every day, the probate lawyer. And he or she knows how to file the paperwork, knows the steps that need to be done, can get all that done easily, but it's still a lot of work and it's a pain in the neck. Now, every probate lawyer has a way to do this already, whether it's paper and pencil, spreadsheets, Peachtree accounting, you name it. They've got some way, but usually it's not that powerful and it's not really custom built to do estate settlement. You can use these powerful accounting packages, but it's going to be hard and it's not really suited for what you want. It's not going to produce a probate accounting report. It's just not really the right tool for the job. And so for a lawyer, what he or she's going to get out of this is it's going to make the job a lot easier in terms of the minutia of the day-to-day, keeping track of all the accounts. And I would also say the output is going to look a little prettier and nicer and maybe even more professional than what they're used to giving their clients.
Right.
Also, because it's an online program, they can interact with their clients and have as close or as loose a relationship as they want, where they're assigning tasks or vice versa. They can keep track of what's going on. They can watch what the executor is spending or doing and kind of guide things in the way that they want, or they can keep it totally to themselves. Now, you get a fiduciary. Oftentimes what has happened is that somebody's been managing the financials for someone and they pass away. And so the family comes to them and they want to know what they're supposed to do. Well, the fiduciary may have been great at estate planning, but he or she doesn't necessarily know the details of how to exactly go through the probate process. No matter how great the estate plan is, there's a lot of little details that need to be handled. And you don't really want to just throw up your hands there. What the fiduciary would like to do is provide the same great service he or she's been providing the whole time to the rest of the family and get this done, or point them in the right direction. And a lot of times fiduciaries want to keep that wealth under their management too. So the better that they can serve the survivors, the better their chances of keeping that relationship with the family going. And so all of these people, the key is that EstateExec has these various components that ties everybody together and keeps them helpful and on the right path. One of the things that you didn't talk about, another constituency, are real estate agents. And a lot of times a real estate agent is looking to do a probate, deal with a house that's in probate, and there's extra steps that need to be done with that. That's not really our area of specialty, but what happens is that real estate agents can come to their prospects and prove their bona fides by showing their expertise, that they have this EstateExec and they can give them a copy of EstateExec for free, or work with them with EstateExec, or just introduce them to it. And it gives a warm feeling that, hey, this real estate agent's not just out to make a buck. He cares about me. He actually helped me with this thing. And he introduced me to things that are complicated, and it just works for me. So this guy must know what he's talking about. And so it just helps to get that relationship going in the beginning.
One thing I've learned in my probate experience is speed kills, and lack of speed just destroys your business and your relationships. That the longer an estate or probate is open, the worse it gets. It never gets better. It never gets better. I have one probate where the client had a business in a bank account at First Republic. You may have heard, when a business was bought by Chase. And we knew it was happening, knew it was happening. We couldn't get things started enough. And we could not get First Republic to transfer money. It was complicated from one entity to another. And they dragged their feet. So eventually, now Chase takes over. And another 2 months go by. We have millions of dollars in the bank that the company owes to investors and customers and employees. And it's hard to say, well, had we started sooner and been faster, we could have solved things under First Republic and not been involved in Chase. But I'm sure it didn't make things easier to drag it out. And same with relationships. The longer you have siblings who get along, well, they get along for a while, but once one sibling thinks you're not moving fast enough to get them their money, things start to fall apart. It's kind of like having fish in your refrigerator. After a while, it smells bad and the whole house has a problem. Can you talk a bit about the pricing of the product? How does that work?
Well, the pricing, we've tried to keep it really simple. So it's $199. That's it. So you can keep it open for as long as you need to settle the estate. Hopefully you get that estate settled in a year or maybe 2. But if it stays open for 10 years, you're still fine. So you just pay one price and then you get the estate done. And in fact, as we became more and more used, people would go through an estate and they'd say, wow, that was serving as an executor is a real pain, but EstateExec was very helpful. And so what I'd like to do is make sure that my executor has a copy of this thing. Can I set it up in advance? So we even changed the product a little bit so that people can buy in advance and use it potentially decades later.
By pre-populating the assets so the assets are titled and identified, and
you can upload a copy of things like your funeral wishes and points of contact for who to get in touch with and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, fantastic. So just a quick tour, the product, EstateExec.com. Ease the burden of being an executor of an estate. I feel like as a real estate agent, that's my job. And so that's why when I saw the website and did some research, I would say reevaluated your company. I met you years ago and used it before, and kind of, I don't know, it brought me back to it, but when I saw that, it made sense for me. And I think one of the things I just want to point out to the real estate agents in particular was to cite your statistics. This is fantastic. What is this about? I mean, I appreciate it. I'm going to start using this for my own marketing material, but what great information you have about estates as a real estate agent looking for content. You have like a lifetime of material here. Tell me about what drove you to do the statistical page.
Well, the same reason that you're finding it very interesting, we thought a lot of people would find it interesting. And, it's kind of a dark, murky area that nobody really likes to talk about or understands. And so we just thought we'd shine a little light there and understand, well, how long does it actually take to settle an estate? How much does it cost on average? What are the difficulties? And so we commissioned some surveys and figured it out.
This is fantastic. And what a great resource. Probate you have as well, which is if you didn't have an estate plan properly, you're going to go to probate court, and this gives you the links to different states around the country. I know another vendor had done something kind of like this, not as detailed. And then, like I said, I thought the statistics were amazing. But you also had, what was it?
Yeah, you know, if you go up a little bit on that menu on the left and you click under what is an executor, and you click on the compensation, this is one of the things that's most interesting to many of the executors. It's surprising to me, but everybody wants to know. So if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see the same kind of map here. And for example, if you click on California, go ahead. Just go ahead and click on, oh, you did, okay. So it'll give you the instructions, but also at the bottom, keep going, there's a calculator that will actually do the math for you. And for some of these states, it's simple, and for some of them, it's complicated. And better than having to type in the numbers, because you might not know what the numbers should be. If you're using EstateExec, it will actually analyze the estate, all the transactions that have been made, the travel that's incurred, the cash that was received, all the rest of that, and it will calculate it for you. And you really can't get that anywhere else. We are the authoritative source on that. And it's actually one of the most interesting topics for executors and the heirs. They always want to know what the executor is getting paid to.
And for those of us who are professionals at this is like a treasure trove of content. I'm sure you're glad to have us posted and link, as long as we link to it and attribute to you.
Oh yeah,
and then
absolutely.
To our customers, it becomes us both learning the material, which is important, and then sharing what we learn with our customers to position ourselves as the experts. So just a phenomenal, I think,
you
tool.
know, another one that's interesting on here, which we don't need to bother to click on, but family entitlements is another thing that really trips people up. There's all sorts of things in various jurisdictions about life estates and what the spouse can remain in the house and things like that, family allowances. And we actually have all of that listed for our users. And all of these topics link to the statutes themselves. Not that most people want to go to the statutes, but a lawyer might want to go to the statute. A fiduciary might want to go to a statute. And it's comfortable for the average consumer to be able to go to it. So when you're introducing this to your clients, if you're a real estate agent or anybody else, you really look like you know what you're doing.
So if you are in an executive for estate, your family member that is coming into that task, I noticed you have create an estate for free. What is the free part, and then what is it that costs? I know you're not giving away the whole service for free. So what is?
Well, if you hover the mouse over it, it gives you a little bit more detail, I think. But in any case, go ahead and click on the button. If you go back and you scroll up, click on the create estate for free. Yeah, go ahead, just click there. And so instantly, without a credit card, without any email address or anything else like that, you can start creating this estate. You fill in a few pieces of information for the quick start wizard, whatever you happen to know or want to share, and get going with that. And you can use virtually every feature of EstateExec for free for a trial period, which lasts 10 days. And then if you want to keep using it, you can pay the license fee and go from there. I mean, you can pay the license fee sooner if you want, but you have 10 days to use pretty much every feature that's there. And we do that because A, we only want happy users. So if it's not suitable for you, we want you to figure that out and know. And B, we're pretty proud of what we've got here. You don't really find this anywhere else. I mean, there's a lot of companies out there that have products that they want you to pay a fee and then you'll figure out what you get. But no, we show you everything and let you play with it and use it. And that's what that means.
Well, and I think as a professional, you also can start the estate here and then, present this to your customer, and then either they hire you or not. If they hire you, you pay the fee, you keep the product. And if they don't hire you, they don't get it. But again, it gives you a chance to show your use of bona fides, but I think also really you're auditioning for the job before, anybody else has a chance to even know there's
and if you were to use this as a marketing incentive, for example, one of the things that you can do is give people you can pay for these things. You can give people a little code so that when they click that create button, instead of just this quick start screen, they actually get a picture of you and it's courtesy of you. Welcome to this. We
Yeah.
hope you find this helpful. And then you go through the quick start wizard.
Nice. Nice. Well, look, obviously there's a lot to it. Just your statistics page. Any real estate agent, anybody doing marketing in the probate space, you should spend the rest of your life digging through that. I know I made myself a list of to-dos to follow up on that. What a fantastic resource. And the concept of having a tool to help our customers, whether it be the executor or the attorney or the fiduciaries. This is a tool that any of them who don't have, as he mentioned, the right software or the right systems in place. The people who do 1 or 2 a year, not the ones who are doing 50, or this is an opportunity for them to improve their service and have better results for themselves and their customers. So, Dan, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. Look forward to
My pleasure.
continuing. Thank you so much.
All right.